everyone, and welcome to those of you who are new to the House Huddle. You found a channel where we discuss objectively and openly domestic cases where societal norms have turned the red flags into more lethal gray ones. In this episode, I will be discussing the season of spending and how it impacts most everyone, especially during this time of year. As with each episode, I will be diving deeper into a case familiar to many of us. I'll be sharing my own opinions with regards to what many have scrutinized and criticized within this family dynamic, and seemingly more harshly during the holidays. Closing out this video will be a recap and revisit to my time in Aberdeen during Christmas of 2022. Please keep your comments respectful, as you never know what someone else is struggling with or dealing with during this holiday season. Let's get started. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please note that some content can be triggering or sensitive for some. Please conduct yourselves accordingly and respectfully in the comments. The now infamous 2017 home video recorded by Shanann herself has gained many sharp opinions over the years. Many have speculated that the disconnect was already present. If you've been with me on this channel from the beginning, then you know I strongly believe Chris and Kessinger were already communicating during this time. Not so much the hot and heavy stuff, but just enough to blur the lines of flirtatious and inappropriate. While Chris remained silent to his concerns about finances and family, he was, in my opinion, turning to a distraction, so to speak, to deflect the frustration. Take a moment and listen to the sound of Shanann's voice.
Hey Santa, where's your phone?
In the garage.
I wanted it.
Oh.
Santa, you gained some weight this year. Come on, Santa. Hold on, Santa. I gotta find the kids because they're kind of scared. Sit down, Santa. Have a seat.
This is my personal opinion of what I see in this video when watched in its entirety. Please drop your comments and thoughts on the video in the comments below. It's okay if your opinion ebbs and flows. It happens to many of us. From the beginning of this video, we can hear the tired and somewhat frustrated voice of Shanann as she's directing Santa on where to go and gives him the update on the evening with the girls. My first observation is that it's dark out. The girls have a known early bedtime, and it appears that the time of this video is certainly right before bed. This may be a simple explanation for their irritability. Keeping in mind, we have seen multiple years of photos with Santa where the girls are screaming, and while Shanann may have gotten a giggle about it later on, it was no doubt a feat that she did not feel like taking on out in public. Consider this. She knew what their budget looked like. She knew it was tight. No mother wants to go sit on Santa's lap and not be able to pay for the $30 photo op. It's absolutely ridiculous that those things cost so much nowadays anyway. However, I will say personally, I quit paying for them when my kids turned 2. My mother, on the other hand, would purchase the ugly photos because she was nanny, and that's what nannies do. But no ma'am, not this mama. So was Chris dressing up as Santa, or in a Santa costume that they had since Bella was born, a way to have the girls visit with Santa and not cost them all the extra money? I mean, it must have been pretty believable because the girls did not pick up on the fact that it was their father. I'm not one of those creators who believes that this is some outlandish form of child abuse. It's a Southern generational thing that most kids endure. Some get excited about Santa, and others, like my youngest, are a bit more logical and ask at age 6, Mom, why do we have to stand in line, this long, long line, when Santa already knows everything? So like, he already knows what I want. So it's just kind of a waste of time. Can we just go home? Sure, little buddy. And to this day, we have not once returned to tell Santa anything. And they've never been disappointed. Something I've noticed throughout Shanann's posts was that she enjoys TJ Maxx. And I bring this up in part 4 of Hidden Motives, and I'll bring it up again here. If you've ever been to one of those stores, or any store for that matter, you know that they pack those aisles with gotcha gifts. That's what I call them, gotcha gifts. You know, those pesky things that appeal to so many of us, especially kids, and usually result in a tantrum prior to checkout. In my opinion, that's what those water bottles were. Some speculate that she bought the water bottles and the kids were manipulated into asking for them on camera. However, in my opinion, it's something a little less twisted and more along the lines of what many parents who struggle financially around the holidays feel. Like, why the heck does Santa get to give out all the good toys? In my opinion, Shanann possibly went shopping and browsing with the girls at a local store, maybe even TJ Maxx, and the girls saw the water bottles. Keep in mind, these range between $4.99 and $7.99 each. It's not bad for a stocking stuffer, and something they can both use, especially with school. It's practical. She also got them poppy slippers from Santa. Again, with a price tag of $7.99 to $9.99 each, the two gifts is still less than a photo op with Santa would have been. Now, water bottles aren't ranked high on anyone's list unless you have a teenage girl this year who wants some $65 Stanley Cup. I mean, I'm a bit jealous and I'd love to have one, but it's not quite on this mama's budget. I'm told that every nurse should have one, so if you feel so inclined, I would love a tan or pastel colored Stanley. But, if Stanley would like to sponsor me and send me one, I'm here for it. So these water bottles may have been something in passing that resulted in a meltdown, but the girls may not have been over the moon for the water bottles after the fact. Similar to a child screaming over a toy that's in those gotcha gift areas, getting it, and then throwing it down the moment they get home. All the more reason why you should not cave into those tantrums and waste your money. Now back to the home visit with Santa. When watching this video in its entirety, I see a mother trying to be too much to too many people all at the same time. She's trying to be the mom who gets the Facebook approved photo with Santa while saving some money, all the while keeping her family on the phone because her parents were video chatting in. She's trying to wrangle two kids who were fussy and also had to navigate the logistics of the Santa visit because clearly Chris did not get the memo that one phone was going to be recording and the other one was going to be taking pictures. I can't imagine going through this season of life ever again. Just listening and watching this video exhausts me. Two toddlers screaming and whining. She's better than me because I would have been like, Santa, you're done, go change and let's get them to bed. Yet she holds it together and tries to one by one get the photo ops and the quote unquote experience. This brings me to a trend that has been seen on social media for a while now, and we even see Shanann make a similar post to what I'm talking about. It's those posts that go up on Christmas Eve, the ones where mainly mothers take photos of all the gifts once they're all set up underneath the Christmas tree, Christmas Eve. They eat the cookies, drink the milk, and of course show that Santa came and did the thing. And have their, they have their whole living room set up. And you see photo after photo after photo on Facebook. At least I can only speak for my own feed, but I know this happens with many of my friends and coworkers. They see the same thing. So, it's like they're showcasing all of their hard work and trying to buy all of the items on a kid's list, then posting it for some level of self-satisfaction. This isn't saying there's anything wrong with it, but before you do it this year, think to yourself, what is my reasoning for this post? If you're just simply proud and want to show it off, then by all means, just do that. But I encourage you to take a moment and pause. Take a step back and see the photo in real time, not just through the lens. Are you just as proud if no one sees it? You don't have to answer out loud, but I do strongly encourage you to take the pause. Keeping in mind, many may have different reasons for posting. Some may be experiencing their greatest financial year and are proud to not be struggling. That's something to celebrate. Some may be excited about their kids' reactions. Some may be trying to make up for areas that were lacking throughout the year. Others may be trying to keep up with everybody else. And some may be feeling the closest morsel of cheer in such a gloomy season. You just never know. So regardless of your thoughts, it is important to remain respectful and full of grace. 'Tis the season, right? A few takeaways from this video that I hope will stick with you are take time to allow for those intimate family moments. I understand wanting your parents to see everything or grandparents to see everything. However, imagine how much more intimate this interaction with Santa would have been had the camera been off or just posted somewhere out of sight. Soak it all in. Feel all the feels, even the ones that you may not want to feel. It will help with taking that next step towards growth. Don't look through the camera lens. Take it all in real time. It may sound repetitive. However, I want to share with you, my son and I once watched a rocket launch at NASA and had the privilege of sitting next to an astronaut who was in charge of designing the flight suits for the manned mission to Mars. As the countdown began, she kept telling me, "Don't watch it from your phone. Trust me. Don't watch it through your phone. You're gonna want to see this." I trusted her and did not once look at my phone. It was the most magical experience I've ever felt with my kids in that moment. The vibrations from the rocket shook my chest, and as the rocket entered into each phase of liftoff, we were able to witness something that not many get to see in their lifetime. And get this, I had been recording the rocket launch. However, when you went back to look at the video, you could not see any of the details of what we visibly got to see with our own eyes. So, had we been looking through the lens of the camera, we would have missed everything. So, trust the real time. Ever since that experience, I no longer record as much as I once did. It's okay to find something small and stay on a budget. Probably one of the hardest things I've had to do this year has been to simply say no. I have 2 teenagers, and their Christmas lists were nothing shy of a mortgage payment for each Christmas list. As much as I'd love to get them everything on their list, it's simply not going to happen. We would be homeless or without utilities and food if I put those lists above all common sense and budgeting. Yet I know, come December 24th, near midnight, my Facebook feed will be full of other parents plastering their photos of what they purchased for their children. And I'll too have to sit there and remind myself that it's more important to not have maxed out credit cards, increased payments, utilities, and even food than to have a photo op to share with people who don't even come to visit in person. I share this with you because it kind of leads into the next segment, and that's revisiting our trip to Aberdeen, North Carolina. Around this time last year, an argument ensued in my then home. My now ex-husband and I reached an unnerving point in our marriage that resulted in a last-minute trip for my oldest son and me. I didn't have a lot of money to spend because while we were trying to work things out, I knew I could not be blindsided with 2 children. I'll share more on this at a later time, but for the sake of this video, many have asked why I went to North Carolina. This is ultimately what prompted my trip to Aberdeen. I found a condo in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, near where the Watts family stayed during their last summer trip. The condo was the Patricia Grand, and it cost me $39 a night this time of year. It did not disappoint, but it was bone-chilling cold, and no matter how much I tried to put on a smile, the tears just kept coming. My oldest son, my dog, and I carried our food for our Christmas dinner and a small amount of presents, along with my porcelain Christmas tree, up to the condo. I set us up a little Christmas corner, made some coffee, and then we mapped out our plan for the next day as we were planning to drive into Aberdeen. I had no idea what to expect or what my thoughts would be. Upon looking at Shanann's Facebook check-ins, we chose to eat at some of the places she visited and had the same Bojangles Shanann and her family had. This was my first trip to Bojangles, and I made sure to get an extra coleslaw in memory of Shanann. What's with the coleslaw? I shared a little about this in an earlier video, but many have asked more about it, so here goes. In his interview with law enforcement, Frankie Jr. is randomly listing out things that caught his attention. He mentions a moment that keeps sticking out to him, and he doesn't understand why, but that was surrounding their family dinner one night. The family had stopped and ordered a family meal from Bojangles, which is Chris's favorite place to eat when visiting North Carolina. As the items of the dinner were being passed out, the last coleslaw remained, and without hesitation, Chris grabbed it and started eating it. Keep in mind, his wife is pregnant, and us mamas all know about those pregnancy cravings. Frankie offered her his coleslaw, but naturally Shanann did not want to take anything from someone else, especially her little brother. On the surface, this may be absolutely nothing, but having known Chris to essentially cater to Shanann and for Frankie to notice this about Chris, it's a grim glimpse into an internal shift within Chris and the Watts family dynamic. It's a gray area of disconnect that had a very visceral feeling that impacted Frankie Jr. Hindsight reminds him of the moment and how he now wishes he had paid closer attention to it, as well as others. But where Frankie Jr. cannot go back in time, what we can do as a society is to pay attention to these moments that act as an emotional sucker punch or alertness. It never hurts to just ask. So the big deal about the coleslaw is it's one example of a moment where Frankie Jr. notes during his law enforcement interview that during the stay in North Carolina, if he could go back, he would, and he would have laid into Chris with more questions. After our visit to Bojangles, I made the trip into the nearby Food Lion to purchase some flowers that resembled a bouquet Miss Bella made sure to express she did not like. I did actually apologize to Bella, so my reasoning for this particular bouquet was knowing that Shanann's favorite color appears to be purple. This bouquet had the most purple flowers in it. I went back and forth between a holiday-themed floral arrangement or the bright ones. After venturing into the town, which again was freezing cold and rather gloomy, I decided the bright colored assortment was perfect. They were very much similar to the ones we see following the Mean Faces video. Given that those flowers were in my first video I ever edited about this case, I felt it was fitting. While I will not go into depth in this video, I will revisit the topic at a later time. It's worth noting that the little town was certainly not a hustling and bustling of any sort. It was very evident that the majority of the people in that town are relatively poor or lower working middle class. The homes are older, and most people, aside from business owners, have to commute into a larger city for work. Please don't take this economical view as the negative or the only view. The homes are modest single-family homes with decent-sized yards and what appears to be a sense of community. You can't find that in a larger city. I did notice several times multiple MLM products on display, albeit storefronts or walking billboards known as People. LuLaRoe, Thrive, Scentsy, 31 Bags, and others were visible in just a quick trip inside Food Lion. I will say I felt very uncomfortable in the Food Lion and don't believe I would ever return to that one. After the Food Lion, we made our way to the cemetery. Out of respect for the family's wishes, I did not record any footage at the graveside. I know many have felt it's a right, and arguably, indeed it is. However, this trip and this visit was hitting me so much personally and just hitting close to home for me personally that I felt it was more important to be in the moment during my time at the graveside. I strongly encourage others to do the same. As I parked my car, I blasted the heater because I knew it was going to be so cold. My son asked if I wanted him to go with me. I told him just give me a few moments and then he could join me. I opened my car and placed my boot on the ground. It's crisp and cold. The pine straw has a familiar smell and feel, similar to the nostalgic days at my own grandparents' home back in Florida. The air was cold and sharp. Each breath filled my lungs. Painfully, as the cool air filled my lungs, the reality of what happened and why I was there came flooding in all at once. It was almost a suffocating moment of my personal reality colliding with what we know of Shanann's. But why? This caused me to pause and look around. Keep in mind, the cemetery is tucked away on a 2-lane road practically in the middle of nowhere. I walked over to the graveside and quickly noticed the Christmas tree crosses. I noticed the crosses were covering the square plaque where the hearts are seen in most photographs. The Christmas tree crosses were decorated, one for each of the kids and Shanann. It reminded me of each ornament's sentiment of my own tree, how each year it's a practice that we put the ornaments on together, and I share the story of how each came to be a part of our family's decorations. The deep sorrow hit with the thoughts that their families will never get to experience such sentiment. I knelt down, careful to not disturb the display, and tears just flowed. It really is an overwhelming emotional experience to be undistracted at the graveside. I shared a few private words with her, and my son joined me. I then placed the flowers up under the bench and to the left side. I wished the family a Merry Christmas via the camera that was posted, and ultimately thanked Shanann for sharing so much of her story, both in life and death. I then stood up, frozen, and walked back to the car. As we drove away, I kept looking in the rearview mirror at what became more and more a familiar scene, a physical metaphor for many. I was unaware just how much of myself was dying during this time. It would take another year for me to grasp just how much. The impact this visit had on me forever changed me as a woman and fully launched me into this new purpose to advocate for those who are fighting the false narratives and silent battles. The image isn't worth the internal sacrifices, or worse, the ultimate sacrifice. I'd like to say at the end of this holiday visit, I never returned to my own hell, but I went back one more time. Another story for another time. The rest of our visit was more detailed in the hometown losses and Christmas tree crosses video. I did want to share one more event that happened literally as we were walking out of the door at the condo. This Christmas in particular had probably been one of the hardest ones I've endured. Camden and I packed up everything, and while he was cleaning up the rest of the condo and double checking everything, I went downstairs with the bell cart to check out. I made it all the way down the elevator, through the checkout line, and to the exit. I was showered and I had forced myself to, get put together. I had to put makeup on, just try to be presentable. It took all I had just to get to that point. I went to move the cart through the exit door, and just like my heart, in that moment, the porcelain Christmas tree that stood glowing for my son and I the night before shattered into 1,000 pieces. The sweetest bellman tried to help catch it, but it happened so quickly, yet as if in slow motion. My son walked off the elevator just as it shattered. I looked up at him, then to the bellman, who was apologizing as if he did it, and with every broken piece I picked up, a tear fell. That was my moment. I couldn't hold it in any longer, and one too many things at once crumbled my Christmas spirit. Although it was a brief moment, I felt refreshed once I wiped the tears away and excessively thanked the bellman for being so genuinely kind. Camden gave me a big hug, and I told him we were going to be just fine. It was just a porcelain Christmas tree, and I could get another one eventually. I collected myself enough to save one piece of the tree. It is now made into an ornament that hangs on our real tree in our home, where we have had almost a full year of healing from the damage of our own nightmare. It's amazing what a year can do. To wrap this one up, as warm and comforting as a Christmas hug from myself and my boys to you and your family, please enjoy this uplifting and personal glimpse of our Christmas tree this year, and wrapping up with the lights display from the Allison Spectacular that we had the opportunity to drive through tonight and go see it with our family, and it was just so magical and full of joy and excitement. I will say that due to copyright issues, I may not be able to use the music that goes along with the light display, because the lights were set through the whole neighborhood to the same radio station. It was pretty awesome. But I will put some cheerful music to it. Remember, what's hidden in darkness always comes to light. And if everything around you seems dark, look again. You may be the light. It's a quote by Rumi. Merry Christmas, guys, and I hope you guys have a good night.
You guys have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you guys soon. Bye, guys. Bye, Santa.
Bye.